everyone, it's Jennifer Dawes, and today I'm taking a couple of minutes to talk through Tableau Relationships. I know they've been out for a number of years. There have been lots of great talks, but still can sometimes cause some confusion for folks. I get a lot of questions about relationships from my team, and so today I kind of wanted to talk through some of the recent challenges that we are working through and kind of go into it a little bit further. So with that, let me share my screen. And the first thing I want to talk through is an article that Tableau put out back in 2020 when relationships first became available. It's still, I think, the best explanation and a great source for anyone trying to really understand what's happening. If you scroll through it, one of the reasons I like it is I'm a visual learner. Not only are there great examples, but there's a data set that you can work with. If you download the data set and walk through some of the examples, it suddenly becomes very obvious where some of the challenges can be and where and when maybe to use relationships. I've told my team that I caution using relationships for larger data sets, just simply because I am somebody that would rather be in the driver's seat of what those data connections are, and I know what to expect when I'm building a workbook. For other folks, they argue relationships are much easier, much fewer fixed LODs that you would have to write. So what's the big wow? Why are people talking about this so much? Let's jump right in. First step is I downloaded the data set and I opened a Tableau workbook. If you do so and connect to the data set you downloaded, you're going to get this data set with lots of different tables, all put together with these relationships. And if you're newer to Tableau, maybe all you've seen is a relationship. I'm about to show you a couple of different things here. So a relationship, what is it? When you pull in data to Tableau, and you're pulling in more than one table, you have to decide how are they related, right? Is it an inner join, outer join, left join for all of the SQL folks out there? That maybe that is more of a native language to you. Relationships, I think of it as a dynamic type of way of connecting data. So dynamic in the way that it's not determined if it's an inner, outer, left, or right until you start building the actual worksheet. And each separate worksheet can be pulled together differently. If none of that makes sense, that's okay. I'm going to explain. Let's take a look at the data. So on a worksheet, we're going to jump in. And just to give you a little background, the data is all about authors, the books they wrote, what awards they've received, and various different details. So if you take a look, when we pull in author's name, just as the first example, you're going to see 41 rows. So we have 41 records of author name. It's giving me a distinct list of all of the authors. Fantastic. So what if I wanted to look at genres? So now I only see 40. That's interesting. Where did that other author go? I wonder if I switch the order here. Nope, still only have 40. I'm also noticing I don't have any null values. So that's kind of key here in understanding some of this. Let's take genres off and let's just explore award name. Now it's completely down to 16 authors. What's really happening? I don't understand. For anybody that really loves the mechanics of how things work in Tableau, one thing that I've recommended for folks is to start a performance recording. I learned this from Jackie Moore a few years ago, and wow, what a fun tool and way to understand the mechanics of the background. If you hit start recording and you start pulling the dimensions on your screen, and then come back and stop the recording, Tableau is going to generate a workbook for you, and you will then be able to see the behind the scenes query that's happening. I'm not going to run that today for sake of time, but I highly recommend it, doing that with a relationship, and then also doing it alternatively with data that you've pulled together via an actual inner, outer, or left join. So what's happening? Why did it go down to 16? I don't understand. Basically, when we are pulling in a dimension from the author table and a dimension in from the award table, Tableau is making a decision for you. It sees you're looking at two dimensions and these two tables, you must want an inner join. Therefore, let's give you only the authors that have won an award. So therefore, no null values. And for a lot of folks, this becomes handy because I don't need to write as many fixed LODs. So I can quickly pull things in, write an analysis and be done with it. The problem is when you have massive data sources that are built all from relationships, it gets confusing if you don't know how to ground yourself and what is the true value and what's actually showing on your screen. If I was brand new to this data set, maybe I wasn't checking the number of rows, and this was millions of records instead of just a handful, it might not be as obvious to me that I was losing records and therefore can be confusing to an end user. All that being said, let's quickly go into same data source, but I pulled this together the good old-fashioned way. And for the sake of this argument today, I'm doing a full join. So it's still the same tables, but I'm doing a full join for them. So I can show you what the big difference is here. And again, if you've only been using Tableau for a while, maybe you've only looked at relationships, joins are really more of the old school method, still available if you're wanting to create data sources with joins, and still something that I use for 98% of my Tableau workbooks. So if we come in, I'll show you why this is so much different. Pull in author. I didn't want author ID. I thought I had author name. Where did it go? 1 second. There it is. It's out of order. I guess a good time to explain that. With pulling data in as a join, you're going to see it in a different order. You're going to have all of your tables listed with dimension first, and then all of your tables with their measures. Whereas when we were looking at the workbook that had relationships, it's table, dimension measures, table dimensions measures. So yeah, it's structured and laid out a little bit different. And I was so used to looking at it in the other way that it threw me off. So long story short, we're going to go back to our workbook that had the joints. We're going to pull an author name. We have a null. Look at that. And then I'm going to pull the same thing we pulled in for the other workbook, which was award name. Notice at the bottom, 42 records, because our 41 authors plus the null. Now I'm going to drop in the award name, and it goes to 49, not 16. So I can see there are authors that have no award, which is great. I really wanted to understand total number of authors and how many have received an award. And then as I scroll down, some authors have a null and an award. Okay, that would make sense. Maybe they have books that haven't received awards. But yeah, I guess I would have to dig in a little bit further to understand what else is changing. But the key piece here is I didn't lose any records. If anything, I'm multiplying my data source. So this is where, as I'm working through my analysis and I'm wanting to compare some things, and the deeper I go, I'm going to have to at some point maybe write a fixed LOD, not for this example, but I'm going to at some point possibly have to write a fixed LOD to isolate a total number for one group compared to a total number for something else. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. One last thing I want to show you guys before I jump is, if I have it pulled up. So at my organization, one thing we use a lot of is published data sources. So that published data source, or that data source that was pulled together with all of the relationships, traditionally in my organization, we would publish that up and our developers could then connect to it and run their analysis. And it kind of divides and conquers. We have the data environment, and then we have separate Tableau developer environment. So for the sake of argument, that is what I did. I published the data source, the bookshop, and then in this copy was the relationships. So now, come to find out, we need one more field added to that data source. And as a developer, I don't want to have to go back to the team that created the data source. I'd rather myself just pull it into prep because I'm a pro and pull in the additional fields and run with it. So here I have my published data source, which in any situation would be just fine. And the first thing I want to do is kind of run through a clean step and take a look at everything here. But the first thing, before I even get any further, it's throwing a red error, an error flag on this. And if I read through it, it's a bit ambiguous. I really don't understand what it's trying to tell me, to be quite honest. Well, let me jump to it and I'll explain and save you some digging. You can't do this. A published data source that is built using Tableau relationships, you cannot put them then later in prep to add more fields to them. Here's why. Uh, this data source is not fully determined yet, right? It's kind of sitting in a place of fully dynamic. The connection between all of these tables hasn't been established. Tableau can't compute what it is that you're actually wanting to see until you're in the workbook dragging those pills, the dimensions into field. And then it's live computing what the query should be. Therefore, you're not able to execute any additional action in Tableau Prep with a published data source built from Tableau relationships. So Tableau relationships are great. You don't necessarily need to write as many fixed LODs. It's really helpful if you're trying to create a workbook to get in and do some quick analysis. I would caution you from using them if you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes like this. And I would encourage you to come out, download this workbook from Tableau and play with it a bit before it clicks. And the other downside is if you have a published data source created from a data source that has relationships, you're not able to add anything else into it via prep. Prep cannot manage and manipulate the relationships. So that's all. Hopefully this is helpful. Have a great day. Bye.